You're listening to Read the Damn Book, and this is episode number 12. Welcome to Read the Damn Book podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, where I read every book of every author that I interview on this show. This is a spinoff of the Webby-nominated My Simplified Life podcast, where we go behind the scenes. I don't just want to hear about the book. I want to hear about the author, the human being behind the words that we all fall in love with. Here, you're going to hear directly from the authors what their journey through life has been like, their journey through writing their book, and some behind the scenes on every book. So let's get started and read the damn book. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, and today I'm taking you to another world with author Ariel Sullivan and her newest book, Conform. It is the first fantasy book I have ever read, and I absolutely loved it. It is the first book from Thousand Voices, which is the imprint by Jenna Bush Hager, and it is a must read. I thoroughly enjoyed not only getting to read the book, but meeting Ariel and hearing the incredible stories that she had to share, from how she got her name to how she and Jenna became not only partners, but friends. Hi, Ariel.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I'm so good. And congratulations, first and foremost. I am so excited for you. Your book has come out in the world and it's a big deal.
It is. It's out there. It's crazy. Everything. I'm not quite sure that I understand all that's happened, but it's super exciting.
Well, take a moment, please, to introduce yourself. And then I think it'll make more sense why it's like a whirlwind craziness for your publication.
Yeah, I'm Ariel Sullivan. I am the author of Conform. It is the first in a trilogy of trilogies, and it came out on the 14th.
And the imprint is Jenna Bush Hager's, which it's a big deal. Like,
Yes, it is the first book in Thousand Voices, which is Jenna Bush Hager's, brand new imprint with Penguin Random House, and I am her debut novel. So she is the most enthusiastic and supportive person in the entire world when it comes to literature. I joke that she's like the fairy godmother of literature because of the books that she, highlights and she like brings to the table. And so I'm beyond flattered to be her first. And it also just makes everything, a whirlwind because she's just a go-getter and it's amazing. So I'm keeping up and we're having fun.
and like no pressure. I know
No
what it's like
pressure.
to publish a book and you're like, okay, it's coming. And then you've got Jenna Bush Hager, who's right behind you along the entire way. And it's the first book to come out.
hmm
I mean, that's a huge honor.
it is. I'm so flattered. It's not how I envisioned this going. It's even better. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I know there's more books coming. I know that this is not only my first, but a brand new thing for her for actually having a say in the stories that she highlights, not just choosing published books. So yeah, I want to do justice by her and all the other voices that she's bringing to the table.
And now I shared with you before we started recording, this was my first fantasy read.
You
And I know some
did.
people will be like, wait, what? And I read a lot of nonfiction, just women's lit, like that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
But I've never been drawn to fantasy because the ones that I've touched on were too out there, confusing, and yet yours was not. I related to this in kind of a weird, freaky way. I felt like it was almost too much like reality right now.
It does touch on some things. I think sometimes the hardest conversations to have or issues to discuss are best placed wrapped in fiction. So that was definitely something I wanted to do, where the things around me, I wanted to put them in a world where maybe you weren't as intimidated or exhausted to approach them.
It definitely felt like slightly Handmaid's Tale, slightly like I kept thinking to myself, oh, this is exactly our administration right now. This is what they want. What do you do? Because it is a tale of a woman who is torn between two men who are complete opposite, sort
hmm
of,
Sort of.
sort of. And you're wondering who's on which side. And I could see both sides in these men of, okay, you have good and you have bad in you. You have good and you have bad in you. And then she has to choose.
hmm Yeah,
It,
I mean, I didn't want to create a character that felt heroic. And I think love triangles can be tricky. And I think part of the reason some people are so against them is there's a winner and a loser so clearly from the get-go. And I just don't see life that way. I think there's a lot of things, pun intended, lost in the gray. Because the subset that the main character lives in wears all gray. And that was also intentional for the things that felt murky in our world that we were too afraid to approach. But yeah, these two men are very different and also both good in their own ways. They may not be making the best decisions with what they're doing, but they're not bad people. And that was important to me to highlight because I don't think most people are not bad people. We may have things that we dislike about ourselves or things that are less desirable, but we still have good in us too.
How did this book come about? How did you come up with the plot of I'm going to do this? I have so many questions because it's a long book. So that means it took you even longer to write and you have children. Take
Mhm.
me on this journey because it feels like it must have been exhausting.
It was, and it's such a beautiful thing to come from like a really hard beginning. But this book came to me while I was battling with postpartum depression. And so I was in a really dark personal place and I was struggling. And it was something that I kept very to myself, away from people. And then at 6 months into my son's life, COVID hit. And suddenly I felt like the world around me looked an awful lot like my interior world. There was a lot of fear, a lot of isolation. And so those two things kind of, collided and started to create this idea I'd always wanted to write. I had always found a reason not to. And I was in such a low place and what I'm going to consider my rock bottom, because I'd hate to think I ever got lower than that. I thought, you really don't have anything to lose from this point. Like this is it. So you might as well either try now or just keep on going on carrying this forever. And so I had a conversation with my husband following one of those really fun chains, the text message chains of like, I tested positive and during COVID. And then you're like, wait, do I have to isolate? Do I have to quarantine? Do I need to test? And I made a very offhand comment to him, that sooner or later, we're all going to have these chips in our wrist. And it's just going to tell us if we're sick or if we have an infection or if we have a deficiency. I was like, it's totally going to revolutionize health, but it'll also make it so that you can't go anywhere if you're sick. And I went to bed. I didn't think about that again. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning to nurse my, I think he was like 7.5, 8 months at that point, to nurse him. And that idea had like exploded in my subconscious. And so I didn't go back to bed that night. And I started to outline this novel. And I thought in the beginning it was going to be a one and done. And then as I kept working on it, one and done turned into a trilogy. And then as I worked on the background, it turned into two trilogies. And then by the time I was finished, I had written not only the first novel, but also an outline for a 9-book universe. So it like
Holy shit.
exploded. Yeah, it fully exploded. And like, it's funny because I look back and I'm still, I mean, if you have a child, you understand that first year of life's a little hazy. And then I had an older child too that I was trying to keep up with. And then you have COVID, which I think we all kind of blocked out certain areas that we just don't care to ever go back to. And so I look back and it's the fuzziest part of my entire, memory that I have, but all I remember doing is continuously going back to it. I wanted to do it and it became this thing where it was almost my escape from how I was feeling, the world, and what also like what I needed to say that I didn't think that it could be said. And it became this really, sacred place to me, a meditative place where I would go and write. And it was chaotic. I wrote in like little sprints. So 20 minutes while pumping, I'd get my computer out while like, you sound like you're from like a Star Wars movie and like I'd write a little bit and then I would write during nap times or like, with Bluey on in the background or those little yoga YouTube videos. I don't know if you guys all remember those
Oh,
with our kids.
yes. Mine are now 9 and 10. And yes,
Yeah.
we have
Whatever
one
we
where he
could
did the
do.
tree with one of the Wiggles, Emma Wiggle.
Yep.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
those.
So I would use those little moments as just like a little break. And it became this thing where like I've now coined it like conform is kind of like the ladder I built to crawl out of that dark place I was in. But it was just a labor of love. And there's still, with my boys are now 6 and 10, Luckily, they're in school during the day, so I feel like I have a little bit more routine. But I do find that I'm just a chaotic writer. I like those, like, I write in the school pickup line anytime I do school pickup because it's 30 minutes of your life you're sitting in your car anyways. You might as well use it for something, enjoyable. And I don't say that in a way like if you want to scroll and that's enjoyable, by all means, scroll away. Moms need their moment. But yeah, it's been this crazy thing, and it's now something I can't imagine like not having in my life, and it's a big juggle, but it's created something beautiful. And I mean, the second book, the prequel, is coming out in March, so it's a quick
That
turnaround, but
is quick.
there's
Yes.
yeah, so yeah, it's been fun. It's just been crazy, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
As a reader, I appreciate that it's coming out so quickly because, there's some where you're going, oh my gosh, we have to wait 2 years. It's just like watching all of these things on TV, like Apple. And the morning show just came back on. We're like, what happened last time? I don't remember. It's been so long. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that it's coming out so quickly.
Yeah, and it's also like it's been, I started writing this in 2020, Conform, and so now we're 5 years later down the road. So I didn't stop writing even as I struggled to get Conform published. I just kept going, and I was like, sooner or later, the right person's going to come along and be enthusiastic and see my vision. So I wrote the second book while fielding rejections for the first book.
And I want, like, people must be kicking themselves now. Like, I love
You
that
know,
you got Jenna Bush Hager. And I like that I have to use all three of her names too when I refer to
oh,
her.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, you say struggle. And yes, I know what that's like. I've been rejected and stuff. And then
Yeah,
when it's right, it's just right. And
yeah.
I'm sure that you wake up going, I love those rejections. I'm so happy I got rejected.
I also think that like there's no story that you ever no book you pick up you want to read doesn't have, setbacks. So like a
Mhm.
rejection, I always see like we always try to teach our boys a loss is a lesson as long as you look at it the right way. And so like they were all lessons for me. I definitely tried to query too soon before like really knowing what I was doing. And then the funny thing is this Conform came from a play date. Jenna's youngest and my youngest are best friends since they were 3. And so like George and Hal are their names, and they were very close. And I hadn't really met Jenna, except for like in passing at like a school activity. And then George and her son's friendship grew, and she invited us over for a play date. And I just, typed a quick message being like, oh, I totally forgot. I was busy writing. I'll be there soon if it still works. And she was like, yeah, of course, come on over. And when I got there, she asked me what I was writing. And it turned into this whole conversation. And at the end of that conversation, she was like, well, just send it to me. And I was like, oh, I mean, I don't, like you have that moment where like, I'm not, I don't live under a rock. I'm aware of what she does. I'm aware of the Read with Jenna. Um, and so like, it wasn't something that I didn't want to impinge on my son and her son's friendship because it's a beautiful little friendship that they have. And so I sent it to her. And like 2 weeks later, she was like, stop querying. Like, I have this amazing idea. Like, let's talk. And like, it turned into where we are today.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I like it makes me want to cry how
I,
perfect it just comes together. And it's something your boys will always have forever too.
I
Like,
know, I
look at our
know.
moms.
Yeah, they talk about it still a lot. Like, your mommy wrote a book, and it's like, Your mommy published the book." And so it's a cute little thing they have. And it's like, for me, super bittersweet because it's like the same child who I struggled so much with in the postpartum is the same child who I felt like kind of like led the way and made this connection. So, like, for me, it was like a beautiful full circle moment with the struggles that I had had as a mother.
Oh,
So,
I love that because I know I have a book. And so when my kids, they were part of this too. They saw me writing, they saw
mhm.
when FedEx delivered, the box of books, and they've been there for all of this. And I know that it means something to them. So I know that your kids are going to be affected in the same way that they're going to
Mhm.
carry on for years. Just this week, my son had a substitute and he goes, I told Miss Jackson about your book and she said she already owns it. And so then Jack came and said he's going to go look for your book and tell his mom to buy it. And I'm like, my book is nonfiction about getting on podcasts. I don't know that Jack's mom is going to care about my book,
I know
but
that's,
it's
I mean,
something they'll
it's,
carry.
They carry, and like that is the sweetest thing when they see it. And like it was fun, my youngest was so little, so obviously he had no understanding when I was writing it. And then as he's gotten older, and I'm writing the third book right now, and he sees me type on the computer, and he's always like, Mom, when are you gonna write a real book? Because he just sees me type on the computer. And so the book actually like arrived and he was like, "Oh, you wrote a real book." And I was like, I did, look." And he was like, "There's no pictures." And I was like, "No, sweetheart, there's no pictures." And he was like, "Huh, okay." And like walked off. So it's like they'll get it. The 10-year-old really gets it. He's so excited. And he's actually, he's read every rejection with me through the years. As kind of just, I wanted to show them that like it's okay to fail because I think that's such a scary thing for adults. And like I wanted my boys to understand that like you have to fail if you want to try something new. And so he's read them all. And so he's very proud and has told all his teachers. But my book has some spice in it,
So
which
it
he
can't go in the
doesn't
school
know.
library. Sorry.
No, he doesn't know about that, but he keeps being like, "My mom says it's for adults." And I'm like, "Don't say it like that." Like, I'm like, parent teacher conferences are going to be real weird. Like, "I heard you wrote an adult book." And I'm going to be like, "Yes." So
Or they're going to be like, I have it and I loved it.
I know. But the support on this, like, nonetheless is beautiful. So
Oh, I love that. That's so amazing. And I saw the map on Instagram. So there's a picture for your
there you
littlest to
go.
look at.
Yeah, there's one picture.
And I loved the description of the gowns.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. I had in my head, I'm like, oh, I want pictures of those. Can we get
I,
somebody to mock those up?
Yes, if you're listening and you draw and you are artistic, please mock them up. I love it. And I do think we're trying to find somebody to do that through Penguin Random House and everything. But I've always loved fashion. I wanted to be a princess I had that like, stage. I'm going to be a princess one day. And I think that comes from being named after the Little Mermaid. So I was kind of doomed to
Were
fail
you
on
really
that.
named after her?
I really was. My parent, that movie came out a couple months before I was born, and my parents were going to name me, I believe it was like Rachel or Ashley, and my older sister begged to have her own Little Mermaid, and they said yes.
These stories are awesome.
Yeah. So I am named after Ariel, the Little Mermaid. It's now grown on me, and I love it. But going back, I like loved gowns and princess things. And so I wanted to bring that like my love of fashion to it. And I also thought that was like a lighter aspect, but also a really good disguise because when you surround everything and you make it look beautiful, it's hard to see the things that they're hiding.
Hmm.
And obviously she's wearing those gowns while she's up with the like group in society. And it's a beautiful thing to get distracted by while some terrible things happen all around you.
Yeah. And I let her defect, I love, and I think I mentioned this in my DM to you, was that she has a blue eye and a brown eye. And I went to
Hmm.
school with Marcy. If you're out there, Marcy from Paradise, I remember your blue eye and your brown eye. And I'm like, how is that a defect? And I think I was telling my kids about it because they're always going, what are you reading? What are you reading?
Yeah.
And I shared basically the premise of the book and that there's these different levels. And, if you're a defect and they're like, what's your defect? Well, she's got different, that's a defect, mom. I'm like, well, in the book it is. Like, no, in real life, it's totally fine. It's totally cool.
Yeah.
But she has to wear gray all the time. They're, what? What? This is horrible. Why would they do that?
Yeah, the kids I told my oldest too about it a little bit and he was like, "So there's no family unit anymore?" And I was like, "No, the kids get taken away. They're called offspring, but they get taken away at 4 to the academy." And he was like, "That's so evil. How could you?" And I was like, it's a messed up world. We're trying to fix it. We got to have some struggle." But yeah, the defect is her heterochromia, and it is not obviously a defect for anybody who has it. It's strikingly beautiful. And for me, it was a way to visually like to show the two different choices she had. So in a lot
Mm,
of the ways, so like each side represents something different. And it's also like supposed to show her like internal struggles because she's a character who wants to understand. And I think that's a very powerful thing to have because when you want to understand, it's really hard to see anything as black and white because she's looking for knowledge and asking the hard questions. And so that blue eye and the brown eye for me highlight that she sees the good and the bad in both sides, that she sees two different men. So, like, it's kind of like a play on all the different things that she's able to actually see in this world that the others aren't.
Oh, I love this. And her family. Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
don't want to give anything away, but there is family drama. And I felt like she's trying to get to know her mom, that eventually we get to find out more. But
Mm-hmm.
that struggle, more so on her mom's side, like she's there
It's
and
tough.
yes. And then you find out towards the end, like, oh, okay, like things come together. And I know that we're left hanging, obviously, for a reason for book two,
Yes, on a
but we
terrible
do
cliff.
get some answers. We get some
You
answers that
you get
you're like,
some.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And you
don't know what's going to happen between the men. So,
I do, but I'm gonna plead the fifth and stay quiet there. I do know where this is going. But yeah, the mother aspect of this was important to me because I was thinking through it, and it's like, what would you do if that was like your role as a mom to like not almost staying silent and staying out of it as a way to protect your offspring, as horrible as that sounds for her mother. So, I really wanted to highlight so many different like female strengths because I don't think there's just one. I think certain feminine strengths are, applauded more than others. But there is something really important to that quiet strength or even staying silent to protect others in this moment. And so you're going to see all of that kind of unravel and come to a head, and you're going to see the two of them have some moments here soon.
oh, I'm so excited. I was so taken aback at the eating of soup for the first time, the eating of chocolates for the first time. I'm like, oh, these poor women.
I know they have nothing. I was trying to think like what is the most basic thing you could strip of somebody where they would be shocked? And I was like, if you took away normal food, like how crazy and what would you do just in that? Like how desperate would that make you to realize that you could have joy in something that just had been a chore every single day? And so
Mm.
I felt like that was like a big thing where like everybody, you kind of have a visceral response where you're like, wait, you've never had real food before? Like that's how horrible. And then you start to see, because like you have to understand why some of these women are okay with their role and why they're willing to go with society. So if you get the pretty gown and you get the good food and you get all of this enjoyment and like luxuries that you've never had, you could see why for some, like you might want to follow along and be okay with it. So that was important to me.
And then I'm thinking about the twist, the friendship twist.
Mm.
We're not giving spoilers away, people. You got to read the book. But I was like, oh, man, did not see that coming.
See, I
Ah,
love to hear if people saw it or not.
nope.
But yeah, it's, like I said, people get desperate and sometimes we do horrible things when we're desperate. And some horrible things definitely happen.
Yeah, I'm like, bitch.
I know it's a sacred thing to like interrupt where you're like, wait a second. Yeah, I had one friend who was like, no, just don't do it. And I was like, it has to be done. It's like she was one of my beta readers and she read it. She's like, I'm so angry. And so she was like, that twist makes me angrier than the other ones. And I'm like, I hope it does because like there is a lot of female rage in this book. And like you get to see that like that feminine rage slowly build in her. And in the next book, I like to say, like, she finally like pops the cork on that. So you get to see that kind of just
Oh, good.
overwhelm everything where she's like, she's ready. But in this one, our poor main character stumbles quite a bit.
And I feel like, and maybe I'm too involved in like what's going on in our country right now, but I feel
Hmm.
like it's so relatable when we look at the women that are either fighting for what's right or the ones who are complicit and who is like backstabbing what, because that is going on currently in the country. And I think
Hmm.
women play a much bigger role than we're talking about. And the book really, there was so much of the book that I'm like, oh, I was telling a friend, I'm texting her, I'm like, you got to read this when it comes out because let me tell you, this is like current day, except that we're in the fantasy world. And she's like, oh, I'm impressed. Like this sounds good. And she was really happy that Jenna published it. She's like, this
Yeah.
speaks volumes that she published it too. And it, it felt like that to me. And you can tell me if I am like reading too much into it too.
No, I mean, I think one of the biggest things I do, because I've been asked this now several times, like, what do you want the reader to take away from this book? And I actually don't like that question because I think we can all read the same book and get a different story, right? Like everybody's coming with preconceived notions or lived experiences or things that they want. And what I tried to do in this book is make it very layered. So if you want to find what comes from the present day or the things that like keep you up at night, it's there. If you want just a fun triangle that's like going to keep you guessing and like beautiful gowns and stuff like that, or like, beautiful scenes where like it's otherworldly, you have that too. And so like there's so many different layers, and that was important to me because I think sometimes when you hit too hard on any one layer, you isolate readers who are like, I don't want to think that hard. And I get that. So
Mhm.
I like to pick up a book sometimes and not think at all. I want you to take me out of the world and never think about it again and then shut it and have that beautiful escape. And sometimes I want to go find a book that I can cry with or be angry with. And so I really tried to make a layered effect where you can find it where you're at. But like I said in the beginning, I think some of the hardest things are set to say are best said in fiction because it's just feels safer for everybody, but it starts the conversation.
I
And
love that so much.
I know, and I started this book when there was quite a divide in COVID about
Hmm.
what we should do, what we should or shouldn't get. And that divide seems to have only grown, unfortunately, as we've kept going. And for me, I was struck by how much we had lost in that middle ground because everybody was listening to judge and not to understand. And so, like that birth, the miners wearing gray, that birthed a character who wanted to understand more than she wanted to judge. She has wants, but her wants kind of contradict the fact that she wants to understand because once she understands, she's like, well, I can't want that anymore. And I think
Hmm.
that's a beautiful thing to experience. And I wanted to bring that to the forefront so hopefully people do have a conversation. And if it's just about whether you're Team Hal or Team Colin, great. That's amazing. Let's talk about it. If you want to talk about the things that you see in the real world that you feel like are in this narrative, let's also talk about that. But I wanted to make sure that there was a wide platform so that people could hop on and meet it where they needed to.
I love it. And there's no clear answer as to which one's right or wrong. I mean, we see that the top echelon, the Ilum, like, yeah, they're really like some guys we see right now who are like conform exactly to who
Yeah.
we are, what we look like, and all of that. And yeah, they're too controlling, so maybe not. Uh, but then you do
You
see
know,
this there's this resistance that builds up too.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you have like the middle ground, like her one brother that you're like, I like you, just like more of him, please.
Are we talking Gregory?
Yeah, the nice one who, yes, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Who comes across kind of like a drunk, am I allowed to
Yes.
cuss? A
Yeah,
drunk
like
asshole.
like the outcast of the family, but really he's like the best one of the family.
Oh yeah. No, look, he came fully fledged, formed with a name and handed me his story in this narrative. So I'm in love with him. And he was my favorite character to write because he's where you can put everything that nobody else is saying. So look, more him would be lovely. He's
Yeah.
the best.
He's what we need more of in the world.
Yeah, he's brash. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but he's real, and I love that, and I love that she gets to see that too. And he also has in one of my favorite storylines too, with just his forbidden love that he carries. And I'm not going to tell everybody about it. Go read it, but it is a side story that people are obsessed with, which makes me very thrilled because it's one that I'm wildly obsessed with.
Do we get more of it?
That's the goal. That's the goal. We should have more of that, a lot more. So we'll see how much more, but yeah.
Oh, good. I love it. I think it's a fantastic book. And for anybody who hasn't read fantasy, make this your first, because then I think that we'll see more of it. I know it's a very popular, genre right now, and I am living
Hmm.
under a rock. But for this to be my first one, I was like, okay, I could do more of this.
Well, my hope was to create a bridge, right? Like sometimes fantasy is intimidating. And sometimes you see it as, and I don't think this is right. Sometimes I think people say it's a little young. I don't think that. I think some of the best like themes are in fantasy books. But I wanted this to be a bridge between, because a very eclectic taste. Like I will read nonfiction, psychology, poetry, into a thriller, into, women's lit, into, a fantasy book. I love it all. And so like I think that's kind of why mine became this like genre blending, because I just wrote a book I wanted to read. And if it didn't fit anywhere, I was like, haha, pun intended on the whole conform thing. I'd make somewhere for it. But yeah, so it's if you've not done fantasy, it is approachable, and it just still has the escapism that I think most people look for in those novels.
I love it. I think you hit it out of the park. It is
Well, thank you.
fantastic. I'm so excited for you, and I'm giddy that we got to talk and get to know
I
each
know,
other
me too.
I can't wait for the next one. I'm like, if it's coming out in March, then the arcs should be here soon.
The arcs are, I think you can go on NetGalley right now, but I do have to like lay this little bomb at everybody's feet. It is the prequel. So I am doing something unconventional, and I am taking you back to that last war and how society got to where it is, because I have been fascinated with the idea that history always repeats itself my entire life. And so you're in for a unconventional approach that I am so flattered that Jenna heard me say and wasn't like, no. She was like, all right, okay, let's see how we get. And so she, was such a good like support system and cheerleader, as I was like, hey, not only am I a debut novelist who wants to pitch 9 books, which I know is intimidating, I also don't want to publish them the way people say we should publish them. So, and she was like, all right, I'm listening. So this next one coming out is called Beneath. It's 200 years before Conform, and you get to see why this upper group that is terrifying is the way they are and how they got there. And so you follow a whole new set of characters. Some of them, their long lineage is still in Conform, but the colors are still there in different ways. So you get to see how maybe they became where they are. So it's an interactive story, because it should make Conform read completely different when you finish Beneath.
Oh, well, I'm going to go search it up, and then I'm going to email your publicist and tell her I want to
go ahead. You do that. It is, I can't pick favorites. I have 2 children. I now have 2 book children, so they're both near and dear to my heart. But I am very excited for the readers to see another side of this world and to expand their knowledge on why it is the way it is.
I love it. And for everybody listening, make sure you go to those play dates with your kids, because you never know what can happen.
You never know.
Become friends.
Yeah. Go see people, be with people. You never know what happens from human connection. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, I love it. Ariel, thank you so much. Can you share with everyone where they can find you and follow you, connect with you, and tell you how much they loved reading Conform?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is Ariel H. Sullivan. And I'm also on TikTok now, which has been a real fun adventure. And that's a whole nother podcast to talk about when you're 35 entering the TikTok world, but we're doing it.
I am 44, friend, and I'm there.
Yeah, it's a fun little, kept having that moment like, am I too old to be here? And I was like, oh, well, we'll figure it out. But I also have a website, arielsullivan.com, that is brand new, up and running. It will have added things here in the near future. But you can also go there. You can get Conform anywhere books are sold. It came out today in the UK, so it's also there. But yeah, come connect with me. Come tell me your team. Come tell me all your theories. I love hearing it. My favorite thing about this world on our phones is the fact that we can now connect, when reading used to be such an isolating, task.
Yes.
And now you get this whole community. And the people who have reached out since they've had arcs are some of the most dedicated, phenomenal people. And when I spend all day with make-believe people on a computer screen, it's fun to have real people be like, they matter to me. And I'm like, oh, good.
And you matter too.
Yeah. So it's
You're amazing.
Come say hi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Friends, you need to go read the damn book. Pick up Conform. It is not only going to take you out of the world, it can be, as Ariel said, your escape, or it can be what reality is right now. But I promise you, you are going to enjoy it. And I am so excited for the next one, the prequel, to come out. Oh, we're going to have Ariel back on for sure. So be sure to go pick up Conform, whether it's your first fantasy novel or your 50th. I know you're going to enjoy it, and I'm so grateful that Ariel shared her story with all of us and her incredible book.